It's Friday, people. We're doing it. We're living it. Let's hang out and have a good time. Watch some friggin' news.
Welcome to the revolution.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Derek O'Shea Show. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day. As always, thank you so much for joining me. It means so much to me. If you want to support my show, you go to buymeacoffee.com/Derek O'Shea Show. Link is in the description below, right there. Super chat is there. Let's see what's going on. I got some videos already currently loaded up. But we're going to see what's going on in the news first before we dive into some pre-recorded stuff from news outlets today.
500,000 of those who have fled since Russia's invasion are children. A member of Ukraine's parliament telling me today those who have stayed will...
Mothers screaming is so crazy, that panic. You see how people so afraid.
It has been like this all day. There's a lot of confusion about where these trains are departing from. People had been waiting here.
Oh, I'm currently live on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Rumble, Facebook, all of them. So if I answer a question that you don't see in the chat, yes, I'm losing my mind, and no, I'm not losing my mind.
People possible onto this train. A lot of families we spoke to said they decided this morning to pack up their house, come here to the station, and just head west.
Oksana is taking her one-year-old. They're leaving her husband behind with no idea where they'll eventually end up. We're at war, she says. We have to get the children out. Oleksiy, staying behind to fight, told us saying goodbye to his wife and son is the hardest moment of his life.
Tom, Ukraine's President Zelenskyy today again called for a no-fly zone. He's been critical of the West for not doing more, but NATO ruled it out, just like the White House has done before. Tom?
Richard Engel for us tonight. Richard, thank you. For a more in-depth look at Russia seizing control of Europe's largest nuclear power plant, I want to bring in a senior fellow at the Council of Strategic Risks, Andrew Weber. He's also a former Assistant Secretary of Defense for Nuclear, Chemical, and Biological Defense. Andrew, thanks for joining Top Story tonight. A lot of people at home are going to be maybe a little afraid about this because it seems like such a major development in this war. The Russians now have control of Europe's largest nuclear power plant. What exactly does that mean for Europe and the rest of the world? And how bad could this be if the Russians don't know what they're doing?
Well, it's a reckless attack, and it could be bad. Luckily, it doesn't seem that any of the reactors or the cooling systems were hit in the shelling and fire from last firefight. And it's unclear over, but they must be relying on the Ukrainian reactor staff, who are in a terrible, terrible situation. I mean, they're almost in a hostage situation, but I'm sure they will, given the chance, if given the chance, they will act responsibly and make sure that the safety of the reactor is maintained.
Is this a strategic play? I mean, what would happen if they would shut this down? Is that something they would do?
Well, these 6 reactors supply about 25% of Ukraine's electricity. So I do think it was a well-planned strategic attack by the Russian military, although I don't think they thought it through very far. It's not clear, will they completely shut it down to deny Ukraine a major source of electricity?
How's everyone doing this Friday? Again, if I'm answering questions that you don't see in the chat, it's not because I'm crazy.
It takes at least a week to...
Though I am completely crazy.
Maintain the flow of the coolant. And if you lose power...
All right, let's see what else is going on.
Ukraine, the maximum penalty.
Again, I have a bunch of videos loaded up. I just want to see what's going on in the news before we get into pre-recorded stuff from other people.
Now it's impossible. The staff at Moscow's last independent TV station walking off set as their final symbolic broadcast played out. Swan Lake, the ballet that played on state TV at the fall of the Soviet Union. Some Western networks, including ABC News, are now not broadcasting from the country.
We don't want to find that out the hard way by finding that someone has said something which we believe to be true or used words which are now outlawed, like war or invasion. And find that we're then punished in a completely draconian and unacceptable way.
More than 8,000 anti-war protesters have been detained across Russia in the last week, according to an independent report. They too could face up to 15 years in jail. But Putin's support does run deep, as our James Longman saw.
So you don't believe that Russia is invading Ukraine at the moment?
Of course I do not believe it. It's nonsense, she says. If it was needed, Russia would have captured Ukraine a long time ago.
Wow, that is crazy. So what happens when the state controls information. That's why I'm not for censorship.
Mary Bruce joins us now from the White House. Mary, of course, we see in your report there that several news organizations are pausing their broadcasting from Russia, including us right here at ABC News. What's the latest on that?
Oh, we're just being canceled by Russia. God.
Well, Trevor, because of this new censorship law passed in Russia today, several Western networks, including CNN, Bloomberg, and the BBC, and of course our very own ABC News team, are now not broadcasting from Russia tonight. An ABC News spokesperson adding, quote, "We will continue to assess the situation and determine what this law means for the safety of our teams on the ground." The White House tonight telling me the Kremlin is launched a full assault on media freedom and the truth, saying that the people of Russia did not choose this war, Putin did, adding they have a right to know about the death, suffering, and destruction being inflicted by their government on the people of Ukraine. Trevor.
Our James Longman had said he was being hassled by police every day outside Moscow, and now this. Mary Bruce from the White House tonight. Mary, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we want to turn to the punishing sanctions that the U.S. and our allies are imposing on Russia. And to help us unpack this issue, I want to bring in one of the key players behind those sanctions. His name is Dileep Singh. He's Deputy National Security Advisor for International Economics right there at the White House. Mr. Singh, thank you for being here. I know you said that last month that sanctions would be tailored to avoid even the appearance of targeting the average Russian civilian. We, of course, see a lot of these are targeting Russian oligarchs, billionaires. How would you say the administration has accomplished that so far? Are Russian civilians being pretty badly hurt at this point by these sanctions?
Yes.
Yeah, hi, Trevor. Good evening. You know, this is Putin's tragic war. These are Putin's sanctions, and these are Putin's costs that he's imposing on the Russian people for his choices. And so what we're seeing now is the economy in Russia is in free fall. The economy is likely set for a deep economic recession. Maybe
as always, sanctions hurts the little people.
Inflation is spiking. His war chest of foreign reserves is now worthless. The ruble is worth less than a penny. His stock market hasn't opened all week, Trevor, and rating agencies are downgrading the country to junk status. But all of these consequences are the result of Putin's choices.
Bishoy, what up? Yeah, I know that they, the leftist media and the the neoconservatives as well. They both want World War III. They're pushing this no-fly zone, which we'll get into soon enough. Jeremy, what up? Heaven forbid the truth gets out to the public. Oh my God, I know. That's like the most ironic thing ever after a whole year of COVID-19 censorship. The fact that the White House is now all of a sudden concerned about Russia taking out Facebook and ABC and stuff like that. It's just the irony. It's almost too, you just want to pop it like a balloon.
Is that if dictators
so
don't pay
much
a price for their aggression, they cause more chaos.
How you guys doing tonight? How you guys feeling about World War III impending? It just feels like tomorrow morning. I just saw word that Zelenskyy is going to be speaking to the United States Senate, who I'm sure all of them are just like ready and geared up and ready to go to send your sons and daughters and, if you're young enough, to war. I mean, they're just so pumped up about this idea of unity as Joe Biden's pushing more and more this American-made product. It's like such a wartime, such a thing, especially for coming from a Democrat. It's kind of unbelievable to hear some of the things he says, talking about funding the police, border security, made in America type of stuff, and then also price controls. There's a lot of crap going down. It's a joke. We're all going to suffer in the long run. Yeah, exactly. The American people, just like the Russian people, just like the Ukrainian people, the actions by their government, it's us that suffer in the long run. Yeah, the sanctions feel good or make you feel like you're making a moral stance, but in the end, you and I lose out in the end as people are paying astronomical prices for gas, and people are just like, oh, it's gas. Like, yeah, not all of us take a train to work in the morning. A lot of us drive, and it cripples our bank accounts. It stops us from buying more stuff. It stops us from going to the grocery store, feeding our family, living a healthier life. There's like, like so many, they don't care.
Reducing the global supply of energy.
They just don't care.
That would raise prices for Americans at the pump, and that would pad Putin's profit.
It's funny too that they're talking about Russian oil and stuff. Like gas prices haven't been slowly rising ever since Biden got into power too. They're just like, it's due to the Ukraine war. No, it's exacerbated and went up to an extreme level due to it, but also it started under Biden. Let's be real.
That might have some kind of effect that we're hoping to achieve. And also, are you
like normal? Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. I know.
Yeah, so these
I feel you, Jeremy. I'm here for you, man.
Trevor, that have profited from Russia's kleptocracy, and now our theory is.
P.S. Bishoy, I think YouTube censored your comment. They do that a lot. If you ever write a comment on one of my videos and you never see it, it's because YouTube decided your comment was too extreme, and I don't get a choice to put it in or not, by the way.
Their yachts, their fancy cars, their private jets, their apartments. That's going to have a chilling effect on the group of people that's closest to Putin. And that's why we're taking aim at these individuals, because we want to concentrate the impact to those most responsible for the brutal aggression in Ukraine. And we're not seeking to target the average Russian.
Sorry about that. I had to fix my camera.
People in Russia should see for themselves.
Don't underestimate Biden's ability to fuck things up. I know. That quote from Obama, it's just like, it's too good to be true. And the fact that it is true is kind of unbelievable.
A bipartisan group of senators, including House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, have called on the U.S. to ban the import of Russian oil. The White House is concerned about raising prices at the pump. We already knew that with gas prices, and a new poll found 69%
Yeah, the White House
of
is so
Americans say
concerned.
they support the sanctions on Russia, even if it does mean higher energy prices. But why wouldn't President Biden support a ban?
Well, let me step back for a second, Trevor. No one should doubt whether we've had a debilitating impact on Russia's economy. As I mentioned, the economy's in free fall, inflation is spiking, the stock market's been closed all week, the currency is worth less than a penny. But we are looking at ways to downgrade Russia's status as a leading supplier of energy.
What do you guys think the end of this will be? Do you think we're going to actually go into war, or do you think we're just going to sit there and watch it unfold and just make grand gestures all the time? I'm curious your thoughts.
Surging supplies from all over the world to accelerate their diversification away from Russia. And yes, we are looking at ways to cut U.S. consumption of Russian energy. But again, that's in the context of maintaining or increasing the global supply of energy. We don't want Americans to pay higher prices at the pump. We don't want to have Putin pad his profits.
Yes, you do.
So we can do both of those things at once.
Dileep Singh joining us from the White House, the Deputy National Security Advisor for International Economics. We know you've been busy. We appreciate your time tonight.
Thanks, Trevor.
Thanks for gaslighting us tonight.
Following humanitarian crisis, now more than 1 million
money in their pockets, not Eris, but theirs. God, I know. Yeah, and that's why they care so much about Ukraine. It's like, our cash cow's going.
Our Phil Lipoff has been in Poland covering.
And I care about Ukraine because I care about the actual people there that are being affected by their government and Putin's actions.
Hundreds of thousands escaping, in many cases, the only place they've ever known.
All right, there's some other stuff. I just want to check on other news, Sky News.
You can't see them. Which one is it? It's the same one.
No. I kind of want to watch a little bit of this tonight. I want to see these warmongers talking about how a no-fly zone could be established. I didn't see this live, and I want to see this. I'm I'll take that back. I don't know for sure if they're warmongers. I'm just assuming.
National Security Advisor to Vice President Mike Pence and the co-chairman of the America First Policy Institute Center for American Security. So all the talk, General, this afternoon has been this appeal that Zelenskyy has made to NATO to commit to a no-fly zone over Ukraine, which would basically, I use the color blue because NATO is known as the Blue Force, and that would basically make all of this
nice drawing.
an area, I guess, north of Crimea, where Russian planes could not fly. Here's what Jens Stoltenberg, the NATO Secretary General, said about it. We are not part of this conflict, and we have a responsibility to ensure it does not escalate and spread beyond Ukraine. We understand the desperation, but we also believe that if we did that, a no-fly zone, we would end up with something that could lead to a full-fledged war in Europe involving much more countries and much more suffering. But, General, you say that there is a way to do it. How?
Well, I think there is. And look, I think we're walking into Act 2 of a Greek tragedy. And that Act 2 will start
and you want to put on Act 3.
With them, the Russians going into the major built-up areas, primarily Kiev, a city of 3 million. And you're going to see street-to-street fighting. You're going to see a lot of casualties out there, civilian casualties. And I think when you start seeing those visions of those people dying, the civilians, I think the world's going to say, you know, I'm tired of this. Enough. Stop. And I think what the United States could do is not get NATO involved. But
what do you guys think about the no-fly zone?
They can go to the UN, and they could say under Articles 27 and 52, wait a second. There's a way to do this. Have a UN no-fly zone, not a NATO no-fly zone where Article 5 doesn't apply.
And who would enforce that?
Well, the UN. Well, we would probably involve it under UN cover. But under both of those articles, all you need is 9 of the 15 votes of the UN Security Council to get it moving. And according to Article 52,
veto?
Wow, that's where Article 52 comes in, because Article 52 is very specific. Article 52 says if you're part of a conflicted party, you're part of it, you are supposed to, by UN rules, abstain. So, and if we could get an interlocutor like Macron to pick up the phone and call Putin and call.
Children couldn't even think that what they're going through. I have 10 kids between me and my wife. Wow. Yeah. Golly. That's devastating. I don't have kids, but if I had kids, a lot of my thinking would probably change, especially about stuff like this. I mean, I just can't, yeah. That's just a lot,
President Xi and say, hey, look, we want you both to abstain. Look, Putin is not winning this fight. Putin is losing this fight. And he would look at ways to say, well, where's my off-ramp? And my off-ramp is, with all this economic problems I've got, there may be a way to do it. And if the United Nations comes into the world body and says this is going to be a UN no-fly zone, then we honor what Zelenskyy has wanted. We keep NATO out of the fight. Now, is this high risk? Of course it is. Is it a perfect plan? No, it's not. No plans are perfect. But there's a way to do it, and we should at least explore it.
That is an interesting formula. Let me come along to where we are now in terms of this invasion. And we go to the south because this is the area where we have seen most of the action now on the part of the Russians. They have moved past Kherson. Apparently now they're heading toward Mykolaiv, which inevitably follows the road which goes this way right into Odessa. I assume that the Russian plan is to surround the back part of Odessa, because you see you've got rivers over here on this side. You could basically cut the city off. And then at the same time, they're moving up here to the northeast to Mariupol. And then here at Enerhodar, they have captured the Zaporizhia nuclear power station. Right. In terms of strategic positioning, what does that give Russia now that it can use for the future?
Well, Odessa would be a fight in the city, because that's the third largest city. It's going to be a major battle if they want to go in there. And you're right about the plan doing that. It's probably to cut it off and isolate it, and then I'll have it from the sea access and from the ground access if they want to go in there. On the nuclear power plant, you asked a question a couple of days ago, and it was a great question. And I think people really didn't pick up on it. What they're trying to do is shut down the power grid. This is an attack on the civilian populace of Ukraine, and you caught it. And they've now got both of the major power plants, the nuclear power plants. Fortunately, there's 2 more on the western edge. They can't get to those at all. But if you start shutting that down, that's clearly an attack on the humanitarian centers. And without power, it's going to start putting more and more pressure on them. I think that's why they're doing it. Look, I think what they did was absolutely way out of bounds. I know in the American military, we would put big boxes around them, no fire areas, you don't go into those, and they've just accelerated the problem they have right now.
In terms of the psychological aspect of all of this, General, we got news today that Ukraine claims that one of its snipers took out, I guess, what is one of the leading generals of the airborne assault into Ukraine. You were airborne yourself. Right. What sort of morale booster is that for the Ukrainian forces?
I've always
the American forces.
It's always good for morale. It really says support the troops out there. It really does. I mean, that proves that they're attacking. The Ukrainians are attacking the targets correctly. Now, I get it. It's a backhanded compliment to the Russians. That's what I expect airborne commanders to do, to be at the front of the fight. But when you take out a senior commander like that, it builds everybody up. You're saying, we are actually fighting this fight, we're winning this fight. If you don't have generals like that dying on the other side, you say, are we accomplishing the mission? And the reason why that's important is the VDV, their airborne forces, their primary assault forces, along with their Spetsnaz. It's not bad to kill those generals out there. I mean, they did it right.
But as Jack...
It's not bad to kill those generals. Just that statement.
He was pointing out earlier today, Russia's got plenty of generals.
Well, Ukraine's got plenty of ammunition, too.
Well, we've got some special generals here, and you're one of them, Jim.
All right, cool. All right, what else do I have keyed up? I don't know if I want to care about that. I kind of want to hear this.
The Przemysl, Poland train station, where the world's newest refugees are flooding in, we spot several men dressed in military gear, walking with purpose out into the cold, while most everyone else is trying to come in. We wondered who these men are who can only speak English and are itching to get to the border with Ukraine. They agree to talk to us, but first names only, and they ask us for help finding a ride to the border, 20 minutes drive away. Can you tell me what it is you are doing here in Poland, very close to the border with Ukraine?
Just trying to help. Protect freedom. Simple as that.
What is your biggest concern? You're also here.
Hey,
are you
US
going
citizen?
in? How many people? What's your biggest concern? And where are you going?
We don't really know right now.
There are 6 men total. They say they are strangers who met here in Poland. Mike is from Clearwater, Florida. AJ is from South Dakota. Matt is from Nottingham, England. What does this remind you of, this time in history?
1936, when fascism rose in Spain. A lot of people went over, but not enough. And if we'd have crushed fascism in 1936, we could have avoided 1939. That's what this feels like. If we don't stop it now, it's going to be our kids fighting this fight.
They all came for one purpose, to fight for Ukraine. Most of these men say they are veterans of war, but Matt makes clear he has no military experience.
What the frick? And you're just going to fight for them?
But they say they all left once they saw the brutal attack on Ukrainian citizens, jumping into action a day before President Zelenskyy called for more foreign fighters to join him in the fight against Russia.
Україна вже зустрічає іноземних добровольців, які йдуть в нашу державу. Перші 16 тисяч. Вони їдуть захищати свободу, захищати життя для нас, для всіх.
You're going in without a plan. Why?
Those people also have family and friends, and you know, somebody's got to stand up for them. And you know, it's not just the U.S., it's not just Britain, it's the whole world's coming together.
It's 3 a.m. with no plan.
2 Americans and 1 British dude just going to go fight.
No one to pick them up on the Ukrainian side of the border, and little equipment. Some don't even have a heavy jacket in below freezing temperatures. They jump in a taxi, head for the border, and disappear into the night. And they weren't the only ones. This French-Canadian who goes by the nom de guerre, Wally, says he received a call from a friend asking for help in Ukraine.
I'm a veteran, but I'm programming, right? So last Friday, my friend who was in the Jeep, he called me and said, okay, we really need you, because you're next sniper, and can you join? I said, yeah, okay, I'll do it.
They and the other foreign men all heading into war without the might of their country's military to back.
These guys are getting paid, right? I mean,
them up. I mean, you guys are going into war without a huge plan. What's your worry?
Not getting there.
Unlock a that is a worry. The cojones. Oh my god, this I'm saving this story for last because it's just so funny to me.
Because she missed her kids. Investigators say when they spoke.
I just want
both inside Ukraine and sometimes when they were trying to cross the border. The first thing one should say is that we have called on, and our High Commissioner, who is currently in the region,
see if any updates
on everybody, all the governments in the receiving countries, to continue to receive people who are crossing the border, not to discriminate in any way or form, and make sure that everybody can cross, everybody, and they are all fleeing the same threats, and they should therefore be provided with the same support, with absolutely no discrimination.
You and your team are doing absolutely incredibly important work right now. We appreciate you taking a couple minutes to talk to us. And after Prime, be sure to check out our ABC News Live special on the refugee crisis.
All right, I think I want some on-ground experience. I know this is very liberal, but there's just not much out there.
Okay, I think we can probably go.
Let's go. We're in an area northwest of Kiev where there's been intense fighting over the past few days between the Russians and the Ukrainian militaries. There is intense bombardment. Oh my God, coming from all around us right now.
We are in Ukraine, 1 week after the start of the Russian invasion. From the streets of Kiev to a crucial port city, where Russian forces are closing in.
We are in Odessa, Ukraine. It's the third largest city in the country. We're on the edge of the Black Sea, and right now, citizens, civilians are preparing for war.
Let's see.
This is Vice News Tonight. I'm Josh Hirsch. Krishna Andavolu is on assignment. Russia has taken its first major city in Ukraine, Kherson. It's a port city along the Black Sea, and its capture moves Russia closer to cutting Ukraine off from the rest of the world. For a week now, many of the stories from this war have been tinged with hope. Russian tanks bogged down, Europe united in solidarity, and inspiring acts of Ukrainian defiance. But hope is harder to come by when you're actually being bombed. Matthew Castle has been in Kiev since before the first air raid warnings, covering what people there are going through.
Right now, there is a sound of bombardment coming from all around us, and all of the civilians from this area are fleeing.
Okay, I think we can probably go.
Let's go.
Go. Sasha, let's go.
We're in an area of north.
Say what you will. I mean, Vice is so leftist, but I love that the fact that they do on the ground reporting. There's not a lot that you've seen from this war. I think that's been one of the most frustrating things about this war is that most of our reporters who are on the ground reporting are reporting from a hotel room. So
Northwest of Kiev, where there's been intense fighting over the past few days between the Russians and the Ukrainian militaries. There is intense bombardment. Oh my God, coming from all around us right now. Jesus Christ.
Ее цель – защита людей, которые на протяжении 8 лет подвергаются издевательствам, геноциду со стороны киевского режима. И для этого мы будем стремиться к демилитаризации и денацификации Украины.
After months of amassing more than 100,000 troops on the Ukrainian border, Russian President Vladimir Putin ordered an invasion of the country from multiple directions.
For weeks now, Western intelligence agencies have been warning that Russia might launch a full-scale war on Ukraine. but few here believed it could happen. However, this morning after around 5 o'clock, Russia began airstrikes across the country, and there are air raid sirens going off right now here in the heart of Kiev. Thousands are racing to get out of Kiev, lining up to board trains and buses that will take them out of the city. Did you ever expect that you would have to flee Kiev with your family?
What a silly question. Yes, I expected that I was going to have to flee. If you guys were going to flee, what is 2 things you would take in your house? If you had to flee, what would you take? But it can only be like 2 things.
Все к тому шло уже много лет, и только наивный дурак не понимал, к чему это все приведет. В принципе, мы вещи собрали уже 15 числа. И тут только ждали, когда начнется.
What do you think will happen next?
Take your animal, of course.
Що ми можемо? Ми можемо стояти, ми можемо тримати це разом. В нас є армія, в нас діє влада, в нас є президент, парламент. Ми будемо жити.
As night falls, Russia continues its advance, and people are taking shelter underground, in basements, parking garages, and subway stations. "27-year-old Kristina Mazurchik works in a jewelry store. She tried to take shelter in a subway station close to her house, but it was completely full. So she's come here to the Krещатик station with her mom and sister.
Сьогодні зранку я повинна була їхати на роботу, але телефонує мені мама, говорить, мені дуже страшно, прийди до мене. Ми не знали, що залишатися вдома чи що робити, і вирішили піти в метро. Щоб якось себе, може, сховати, не знаю. Нічого такого подібного взагалі.
What do you think is going to happen in the coming days?
Сподіваємося, що всі повернемося додому. Там все буде добре.
Are you scared by what you might find when you go above ground tomorrow?
Просто хочеться, щоб було тихо, спокійно і без обстрілів там. Навіть якщо там будуть там якісь руїни, то це все можна переробити, це все таке набути буде з часом. Нічого такого, але щоб просто всі відступили і все було добре.
Crazy. I mean, that is crazy. I can't imagine grabbing everything I have to get under the bunker as fast as possible. And live in a subway. Especially our subways. They're disgusting.
Kiev. This apartment block was struck by a rocket from fighting a few kilometers away. 6 people were injured.
Я знаходився в тому крилі, якраз з хворими, і після грохоту ми всі евакуювали в бункер.
Alexei Orlov was on duty at the hospital across the road.
What would have happened had that shell or missile hit the hospital?
Як бачите, цей дім рятував лікарню. Тому що по траєкторії він би влучив в те крило, де знаходиться хірургічне відділення, і він би вбив висококласних спеціалістів, які хочуть працювати, які ніколи не тримали зброї в руках. Наша зброя – це скальпель і розум.
But other Ukrainians are taking up arms.
So we're here outside this building in Kiev that the government is using as a distribution point to hand out weapons to, well, anyone who wants one, so that they can use them in the fight against the Russians.
On the day of the invasion, these 2 friends, one a software engineer and the other a biochemist, decided to join the Territorial Defense Force, an all-volunteer group within the Ukrainian military.
Russians have enslaved this land since, I don't know, at least 16th century. They've made their best to suppress our language, to suppress our culture, to prohibit printing books in Ukrainian. And now they want to overthrow our state. Like, what other choice do we have? It's pretty obvious.
Ukrainians have suffered a lot of casualties so far. Aren't you afraid that you might be one of them?
They're hitting buildings where civilians are living. So we're in danger everywhere. And the only option that we have left is to fight back and take as much of these bastards to hell as we can.
Где его документы? Ты откуда? Я вообще родился в Донецке. Ну, я
Приписка Донецк, загнул, голову нагнул, ноги поставил.
Рюкзак, давай посмотрим.
The volunteer groups are setting up checkpoints all across the city. We're here at this checkpoint, and these territorial defense forces are suspecting that someone might be over there. They've taken up position.
That's crazy.
Setting up checkpoints all across the city. We're here at this checkpoint, and these territorial defense It gives you a sign of just how tense things are in Kiev at the moment.
Чисто! Чисто! Можно, да.
What happened there exactly?
Подозрительні люди, і ми їх перевірили. Якщо підозрюють, що знаходимо, ми їх затримуємо і забираємо для того, щоб перевірити, хто вони, що вони і для чого вони сюди прийшли. Тому що дуже багато диверсійно-розвідувальних груп.
Viktor Kidichenko is in charge of this checkpoint in the Vishneva neighborhood in western Kiev. Who are these guys?
Тут знаходяться звичайні люди, які прийшли на допомогу військовим. Вони зробили коктейль Молотова. Вони прийшли, взяли свою зброю, що у кого було.
Are you worried that Russian forces are going to make it here to the center of Kiev?
Вони вже прийшли. Вони вже вбивають наших людей. Вони вбивають наших дітей, жінок, матерів. І вони вже дуже близько. Десь приблизно кілометрів 10 від цього стоїть вражеська техніка. Близько 400 єдиниць бронетехніки, танків і ракет.
Do you think that you and civilian volunteers and others are going to be capable of stopping them?
Ми в цьому впевнені. І ми їх переможемо. Навіть якщо
Imagine if he was like, no, actually, we're not going to do anything. And I don't know why I'm fighting. God, what a silly question.
Якщо ми помремо, і ворог буде розбитий. Я в цьому впевнений на 300%. Тому перемога буде за нами.
The strength of the Ukrainian defenses surprised the Russians, who have made only small territorial gains, while losing hundreds of tanks and military vehicles in the process.
Пост воинская часть. Блядь, горит все.
Commercial break. Let's see what's going on in live. What's Batman? This guy.
Front beaten, but the security they are not yet because they are still working there.
All right, let's go back to this story.
Just over there are at least 3 military vehicles that have been absolutely destroyed. The Ukrainian soldiers told us that they belong to the Russians who tried to come down this road this morning when they were met with a fierce resistance from the Ukrainian military here. These 2 vehicles here belong to the Ukrainians, and they're blocking the road because, as you can see, behind them, it's a straight shot to the heart of Kiev.
О другій ночі було чути гради. Оцей дом, отак от весь ходив. Він десь оцей перший десь йшов кілометрів в час 70 до 80. Бистро, щоб туди проскочить. Ну, хлопці не дали йому проскочити. Відкрили одразу огонь.
So, are you optimistic that the Ukrainians can stop the Russian advance?
It's like the second time this guy's asked this question. He's waiting for someone to say no. God.
Можу. Даю на 90% то, що ми їх отут всіх лишимо, якщо будуть йти. Всіх отут там.
90% sure. I'll take a 90.
But it's unclear how long the Ukrainian defenses can hold. 40-mile column of Russian tanks is heading directly for Kiev. People in the city are bracing themselves for a full-scale Russian attack.
Where have you been staying since we last saw you a few days ago?
В метро так и оставались, мы никуда не выходили. Тяжеловато, морально хочется на воздух и очень холодно. Мы держимся, выхода нет, там более безопасно, чем дома.
What do you think is going to happen here?
То, что все закончится, но такие прогнозы, что Путин не остановится. Назад дороги уже нет. Хочется надеяться на лучшее. Я надеюсь, что мы победим вместе этого злого, ужасного человека-убийцу.
Even before
A beautiful church.
another port city just 100 miles west was preparing for a direct attack. A defeat here would solidify Russia's grip on the Black Sea, which connects Ukraine to the whole world. Ben C. Solomon has more.
We are in Odessa, Ukraine. It's the third largest city in the country. And right now, citizens, civilians are preparing for war. The question is not if the Russians will come, it's when the Russians will come. Volunteers have come out here building sandbags, trying to make the defenses that will go all around the city to prepare for a Russian invasion. Odessa is situated right at the edge of the Black Sea between Russia and Moldova. The worry is if they take this town, they control the entire south of the country.
More than 1 million people have already fled Ukraine. But for now, here in Odessa, people are trying to save their city.
We were all scared first day, but now we were only angry. I see a lot of people working here with passion, and we are all united with our goal to protect our country, to protect our
passion, fear,
our city, to protect our neighborhood.
Are you worried for your family, for your friends here?
Of course I'm worried, because it's war, and it will be stupid to don't be worried. But I decided to stay here, and my wife stay here too. Because who will protect our country if all people will go abroad?
I love that they take that fake story and just make it a war cry. I love that. Who cares? When you're in war, it's like you'll take anything, any kind of hope.
Surrounding the city, the Ukrainian military is the first line of defense, setting up a perimeter to defend from the coming invasion. Inside, volunteers are setting up their own line of defense.
So right now we're with a kind of makeshift militia. A week ago, 2 weeks ago, these guys were bakers and accountants. Today, they're soldiers. They have taken up arms that have been handed out by the military. They've marked themselves with these like yellow bands to show that they're newfound soldiers. And they're guarding all around the city. Some of them have experience, some of them don't.
Лен, иди на этот. Да, давай сюда.
So explain me what you're doing here today.
Осваиваю работу бармена на своем 74-м году жизни. Нам хотят пожаловать дорогие гости, но...
I take a bartending at 74. A good bartender, no?
Без горячительных напитков как-то неудобно.
Они попросили.
Marina Sibrova knows Russian aggression. She survived the war in Chechnya and then a decade later escaped the war in eastern Ukraine. Now, she's determined to fight back.
Военный химик. Рассказала рецепт, и вот со второго дня я их сижу, делаю и обучаю ребят.
When you hear the bombs coming, I mean, are you scared?
Нет, я не первый раз их уже слышу. Я их слышала в 2014 году. Я в 1994 году. На меня и с 2-летним ребенком ехал российский танк, освободитель в Чечне также. Я не боюсь.
Looked like my first apartment. Honestly, same.
It seems like you've been,
just like, and you can't tell which bottles are empty and which are full.
you've been in some sort of war for so much of your life. I mean, why not try to find somewhere else to live?
Я устала. Устала бояться.
That hits home. Tired of being afraid. Good Lord, that's a statement.
Очень сложно начинать жизнь сначала в 40 лет. Я бы хотела российским матерям сказать, чтобы они забирали своих сыновей назад к себе на родину. Мы не хотим убивать их. Но если они к нам...
Never bought yellow Gatorade for a reason. That's smart. That's smart. Though, I'm a big fan of the yellow Gatorade. It's almost as good as the yellow snow.
Идут с оружием, мы будем бороться и уничтожать их.
The European Union has announced it will let in refugees from Ukraine.
This guy.
Residency for
the European Union has announced, just relax,
refugees from non-white countries. But it is good news for people
from non-white countries. I need to hear that one more time. That sounds like freaking some propaganda.
Refugees from Ukraine, and even give them residency for 3 years, which is a pretty big shift from how it's treated refugees from non-white countries.
Oh my gosh. Ugh. God. It's just, why do you have to make it a race thing immediately? It's like, it's always a power struggle with these people.
The European Union has announced it will let in refugees from Ukraine and even give them residency for 3 years, which is a pretty big shift from how it's treated refugees from non-white countries.
I just want to punch you right through the screen. God, just always looking. Always looking. If you look for racism and everything, you're going to find it in something.
But it is good news for people in Ukraine who've gotten clear of Russian bombs.
It is good news for white pieces of trash like me. God.
Bombs into safety. Val Kipnis is at the Polish border, where people who've gotten through are starting to process what they're leaving behind.
I'm here in Medica.
Well, there aren't non-white European countries. Right. I know.
Well, you got Spanish. Oh, gotcha.
Border crossing between Ukraine and Poland. Already, nearly 1 million refugees have fled Ukraine, and almost half have ended up here, walking through a checkpoint much like this. I spent most of today talking to those who fled their homes about their experiences and also about what they plan to do next. Как тебя зовут?
Вероника.
Вероника. Вы объясняете, что происходит?
Она маленькая, она еще этого не понимает.
This war kind of makes me wish I knew Russian.
Ну а когда она вырастет, что вы ей скажете?
Конечно, я все это расскажу. Как нам бабушки рассказывали о войне, так и я буду рассказывать.
I did hear that word, babushka. I do know that.
И когда вы решили сюда приехать?
Zimbabwe doesn't share a border with Poland, and Ireland is an island. Yeah. I was thinking of all these white Irish people. Like myself.
А вот как только в 4 утра началась бомбежка Харькова, я сразу же сумки собрала, детей и вперед.
И куда вы планируете после этого ехать? Какой у вас сейчас пока план?
Не знаю где. Вот. Ну, а соответственно, как только на Украине наладится, все станет тихо, мы обратно.
Вы поедете там?
As soon as things quiet down. Yikes.
Да, конечно. Только домой.
Ну, я сам гражданин Сирии. У нас тоже война, тоже это Россия, тоже бомбит там. У нас уже 11 лет война в Сирии. Что можно сказать? Одну землю забрали россияне, и вот второй. Что
That's crazy.
можно сказать? Бог с ним.
That's just like horrible luck being Syrian and going to Ukraine and think you're going to live a peaceful life and then skadoosh. God, it's just it's devastating.
Щоб він там пропав, де йому Господь Бог його накаже. Він не буде мав спасення ні.
У меня 12 лет я живу в Днепропетровске. Как будет, если мы молимся, Бог, что все будет тихо, спокойно, для все люди, для украинцев, для все. Сейчас все проблем Украина.
Dude, the Ruskies are going easy on them. And look at the Chechenian war. I know they're going easy on them. They haven't unleashed the full force. That's why I don't really get caught up in the propaganda of like Ukraine is putting up this fight that the Russians never assumed. I mean, I guess they assumed it would be a little bit easier, but it's just like they could just turn it up if they needed to, and they will, and that's what's so scary.
Я хотел, что говорит мир. Пожалуйста, не только Украина, смотрит Палестину. Каждый день люди умер. Наш брат там в Ирак, в Мали, в Буркина-Фасо. А эти люди, они не европейские или не американские, мы их бросаем. Это тоже неправильно.
И что вы оставили?
Оставили квартиру, цветы. Там. Да, ну, воспоминания у меня. Извините, ребенок умер 1 октября.
Извиняюсь.
Могила мамы и могила ребенка. Вот, ну, и когда война закончится, мы надеемся, что скоро, то мы вернемся обратно в Украину.
Thanks to the entire team, Val Kipnis, Madeline May, and Jica Gonzalez. That's it for Vice News Tonight. We're back next Wednesday, March 9th, with a full hour on the invasion of Ukraine. Until then, we're...
Well, that's exciting. See what's going on before we get into that trash. Over this.
That's our show for this hour. Stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. Thank you so much for streaming with.
Denied. It's the top of the hour. Speaking, I just want to see. I didn't see this
the past week
open
for
monologue.
Obvious reasons. As a result, across all networks, the usual in-studio guests are getting bumped left and right. And when troops...
Have you watched the movie Threads? It's free on YouTube. It's the most accurate depiction of a small exchange nuclear war. No, I have not. How long is that movie?
Are fighting near a nuclear power plant and people are dying. The focus shifts to reporting on the ground, and that's not surprising. But there is one cable news mainstay, a fixture, who has disappeared so abruptly and with so little fanfare that it's worth taking a closer look. For more than 2 years, from the beginning of the pandemic, Tony Fauci was everywhere. No matter what
They're done with Tony Fauci. He's just
happened in America.
He's just hiding now.
BLM riots, January 6th, the presidential election. Tony Fauci was still on television around the clock screeching about COVID.
Go back 60 days of the 2 months.
Oh my God. That's giving me PTSD.
When you look at the level of virus in the nasopharynx,
Oh my
the person who's vaccinated and gets a breakthrough infection.
No matter how many times he changed his opinion on masks or how much we learned about the gain of function research he was funding in Wuhan.
Oh, YouTube, that wasn't me. Oh, yes, this story. I'm here for this story. This just tickles my something.
It's this little sticker that's popping up across gas stations all across North Alabama. It's a picture of Joe Biden, and they place it next to the high dollar signs. And underneath it says, "I did that." And while it might seem like a funny political message to some, it could actually...
Oh, actually, it's not a funny political message because people don't like what they're paying at the pump.
cost the gas stations a fine for vandalism.
I take off five or six a day from our different pumps.
That poor guy. I take 5 or 6 a day off. I want to hear that one more time.
For vandalism.
I take off five or six a day.
And he's the one putting it up. It's a full movie. It's made in the mid 80s. A hyper realistic, be it low budget, it's nightmares. Oh God, it's almost like I don't even want to think about that right now. John Kirby. I didn't see this interview.
Last one I'm going to sneak in here. Would you still describe the advance on Kiev from the north as stalled?
Yes, we would.
Okay. One last one.
Interesting. What's this?
One last question for you, John, if I may. What does the time frame look like at this point? I know the president has said this could go on a long time. Do you believe that's the case, and how long is a long time?
I think the president's right that this could potentially drag out for weeks, maybe months. We don't really know what Mr. Putin's next step is going to be. He is clearly, and his commanders are clearly, frustrated and flummoxed by the fact that here we are in...
Flummoxed? Now, that's a word I haven't heard ever.
Day 9, and they have not achieved all the goals that they wanted to achieve by now. They really haven't taken any major population centers.
If they are BLM stickers, the story would be how racist gas stations are removing them. I know, seriously.
Or save one. And so they're going to readjust. They're going to try to overcome those challenges. And our concern is that they're going to do it with even more brutality than they already have visited upon the Ukrainian people. And the Ukrainian people are clearly in the fight and ready to defend themselves. And that defense that they're putting up has slowed Mr. Putin's progress. So the president is 100% right. This could drag on longer than anybody might have thought, but
I am curious how long this is going to be drawn out for.
Russia has cut off access to Facebook inside of Russia.
The irony of this is it's just too much.
How does
this question
affect U.S. efforts? Does the White House have concerns about that source of information to Russian citizens being cut off? You know,
is the White House concerned about information being censored to the Russian citizens about something rarely important in their life that could dictate whether they live or die? Are they concerned about that?
This is part of their effort, as you know, to cut off a range of information from their public. They had talked about this a little bit yesterday, but
yeah, I can't think of any government that would do that to their citizens. I just can't.
There are concerning steps they have taken to crack down on any form of information being shared with their public. Certainly, Facebook is a part of that. They've also threatened fines for journalists.
I just want to stop them and be like, do you hear what you're saying? Do you hear what you're saying? Do you hear it?
Journalists reporting on the ground. They've threatened, they've conveyed that there are only certain words their own Russian media can use. Oh
my God. Do you hear what you're saying, Jen? Yeah, Hunter's laptop. Do you hear what you're saying? There's certain words you're not allowed to say. Do you hear what you're saying? God.
The risk of being fined or even jailed. This is a pattern. This is not necessarily a new approach that they have taken, but to crack down on information in their country to reach the Russian people. So certainly we are deeply concerned about this and concerned.
So concerned. Really?
About the threat on freedom of speech.
You're not clapping it on the inside thinking, I wish we could do this too. I don't know. Huge people in our society like Joe Rogan.
The reason why the price of gas is going up is not because of steps the president has taken.
Oh my God. It's like sometimes you hear things and you don't want to hear it, and because it makes you so angry. But let's try to listen to this one more time, because people just don't understand the reason why gas is going up, and again, it has nothing to do with this administration.
The reason why the price of gas is going up is not because of steps the president has taken.
Right. He has done nothing to increase gas prices. Nothing. So if you think that, you need to stop listening to your stupid Fox News and everyone else.
Because President Putin is invading Ukraine, and that is creating a great deal of instability in the global marketplace.
That's insane.
The reason why the price of
sometimes I just can't.
Understanding it's not the position of the U.S. government, what Lindsey Graham said last night. What Lindsey Graham did suggest is that there's no peaceful resolution here while Vladimir Putin is still in power in Russia. Does the president share that view?
The president believes there continues to be a diplomatic path forward. That is the path forward that will help resolve what we're seeing on the ground. President Putin has the ability to de-escalate. We have left the door open 4 months now to be engaged through de-escalation, if de-escalation occurs. Obviously, humanitarian corridors, a ceasefire, those would all be steps that would be welcomed. But no, we are not advocating for killing the leader of a foreign country or regime change. That is not the policy of the United States.
Not yet. What's this? Oh, death penalty.
And by the way, when I say buy America, I mean buy all America. I want to increase
buy all America.
The share of federal spending in goods and services that go to small businesses in America, the backbone of our country. Last year, I released a plan to increase the number of contacts that go to small disadvantaged businesses by 50% by 2025. This means more contracts will go to Black, Brown, Native American, women-owned, veterans-owned small businesses in every state and territory.
Sounds like he needs a nap. What's this?
And so many families are still struggling, though, to make ends meet because of inflation. I understand our top priority must be getting prices under control. Look, our economy roared back faster than most predicted.
That's right. Nothing helps an economy get back like a government controlling spending.
But the pandemic meant that businesses had a hard time hiring enough workers to keep up and production in their factories.
Okay. I'm almost out of stuff to talk about. Let's see. Oh, yes. What is this? Okay. Lindsey Graham went back on Sean Hannity. This is too... I'm just going to go ahead and just see what comes off from this.
Just heard our reporting of what's happened in the last 24 hours since you made that statement. Towns...
Yeah, I'm so controversial. I'm Lindsey Graham.
Annihilated, neighborhoods leveled, entire areas wiped off the map, and we've heard about targeting civilians. That would be innocent men, women, and children. So in the context of what we heard reported right here on this program tonight, that I think would justify the idea that if you have a conscience and a soul and you're around Vladimir Putin, I don't care, by whatever means necessary, stand up and stop this because innocent people are dying, including...
Oh, okay. So Sean Hannity is backing his little buddy. Okay.
Kids.
Well, thank you for having me. I spoke to the Ukrainian ambassador earlier today. Your voice...
Thank you for having me. No one else will.
...is breaking through. After I listen to your program every night, Putin needs a longer table.
After I listen to your program every night, oh my God, just slid that in.
Here's what I would say. I've been a military prosecutor, defense attorney, judge for 30-something years.
Yeah, and you should not be.
I'm going to introduce a resolution next week. I'll give it to you on your show, declaring that Putin is a war criminal. It's clear to me the world would be better off if the Russian people took Putin out tonight.
He's doubling down because nothing says I made it a stupid judgment call like doubling down.
War in Ukraine would end and Russia would have freedom they don't enjoy today. A steel curtain has descended upon the Russian people. What does that tell me?
It tells you you're crazy.
Has descended upon you and your freedom, but please, we need a Russian spring. If the Russian people rose up and took this man down, the war in Ukraine would stop. The Russian people would regain its honor. And if we don't do this sooner rather than later,
the Russian people would regain their honor.
Thousands are going to die.
Tens of thousands, Lindsay, maybe hundreds. Is anyone paying attention to the hit squads that Putin has sent into Ukraine to assassinate President Zelenskyy, who frankly has shown amazing courage under fire, in my opinion?
I'd be okay to do these things if these two were willing to fight on the front lines. I think we could all agree to that.
I don't know him that well, but him staying and fighting and inspiring his people is kind of refreshing, because a lot of leaders by this point would have gotten on a private jet with millions of dollars of currency and
you mean like Lindsey Graham?
Gold and left the country, and he's staying with his people.
That's amazing. I'm going to speak with him tomorrow with all members of the Senate.
Which I'm not looking forward to.
He's an inspiration. And I just want to say this. You're on the right side of history. I'm on the right side of history.
How do you know? How do you know these things?
Calling for Putin to be taken down now to avoid more innocent lives being lost is the right thing to do. Asking the Russian people for a Russian spring is the right thing to do. Helping the Ukrainian people with weapons is the right thing to do. When it comes to the Biden administration, they're weak and they're slow. We should have done this months ago when it comes to the oil and gas sector. But I'm going to just let you know, if we don't get this right, if Putin prevails, he survives yet again after one war crime after another on television every night. China's going to take Taiwan and the Iranians are going to break out for a bomb. How this end matters, and let it end now. Let it end with the Russian people taking this thug and war criminal down.
I'll add one last thing, and stop importing Russian oil. That means the U.S., and that means our allies in Western Europe. And by the way, don't even contemplate taking in or importing Iranian oil. That would be about, well, maybe the equivalent or even dumber. Senator Lindsey Graham, thank you for being with us.
You guys need to go get a room. God. Gross. See what's going on.
They are unmistakable. The sirens on the Ukraine border. The police escort for the buses filled with frightened Ukrainians who are escaping war. Guards securing the site in Poland where they pull in.
You can see the buses pulling in one after another. These are all Ukrainian families fleeing their country, coming just across the border here into Poland. On board these buses, we hear story after story about the mothers and their young children and the fathers who they have left behind to fight against the Russians.
Don't rush off the bus, she says. Please, no panicking, and keep an eye on your children. Another guard waiting to help. On board so many of the refugees are children. More than 500,000 child refugees alone. Lifting up this boy, a mother and her sleeping baby, and their one bag of belongings. She gets help with her baby. The guard holding him. And then back to mom. She whispers, "Don't worry, mommy's here." She kisses her baby. So many mothers and their young children carrying them for much of this journey. And we find the boy with the superhero backpack.
Are you a Superman? Yeah, you're a Superman.
Zahar tells me he's 5.
Oh, you're 5. You're 5?
He tells me they took a train and then a bus. He also tells me his father is fighting in the war.
Your father is still at the war? Your son told me that his papa is fighting against the Russians.
Сын сказал, что папа борется с русскими. Да. Погоди, не знаю. И такой молодой.
What did you say to him before he left?
She tells me he told them to go because it was terrible. They could hear the missiles. The Russians were firing all around them.
How do you explain this to your children? What do you say to them?
Его это игрушки, он до конца ничего не понимает.
She says, my 8-year-old daughter is old enough to understand the danger. Wiping her tears, she holds her. A kiss to her forehead.
As you can see, there's just a crush of families here who have just arrived from Ukraine. This is the shelter that they have set up here, at least in the short term, to try to get these families some answers.
This young woman, a volunteer, telling them they will now choose a country where they will go next. Germany, Austria, Italy. We see the line of people listening to her, realizing they must choose now where they're going to live.
She was telling you all of these places you can go. Have you thought about that, where you want to go?
She tells me they're planning to go to Vienna.
Can you believe that you're being forced to choose another country to go to?
I want to be away from the danger, she says, so I can have my children live in peace.
Seriously.
A son hugs his mother after what he's heard.
The tears of a mother, yeah.
Their father staying back too to fight the Russians.
Do you worry about your husband?
Yes, she says, but he told us to go.
You thinking about your father?
Very much, he tells me. I'm having a hard time. I love him. Watching it all, his younger sister, Zlata.
Please be safe. Please be safe.
And with so much need here, that young volunteer who came from Germany helping these families, revealing to me one of the things they need most right now.
The problem is that we can't find drivers who drive to the countries. That's the only problem we have. So we really need drivers.
To get them there.
Yeah.
These buses picking up many of the refugees who walked here, crossing the border. Through the window, we see the families who came on foot, pushing strollers, the children walking.
The long exodus for so many of these Ukrainian families who say their journey has been days long.
Mothers carrying their children, the boy carrying his dinosaur. They come by foot, by bus, and by train. And at the train station, the emotion on their faces when they make it, realizing all they've left behind and the unknown ahead. The little girl wearing hearts and holding her unicorn, her mother holding her.
Still to come on Prime, the communities that are really...
See what's going on here.
Stop! Everyone!
We think it's a Ukrainian checkpoint and a mistake, so we identify ourselves.
British journalists! Journalists!
Journalists!
Journalista!
Can anyone... You all right, Stu? Is everyone okay? You okay, Dom?
Dang.
Journalists!
Somehow we have to get out of this, but the rounds keep coming. It's a professional ambush. The bullets just don't miss.
Whoa! Where can we go? Shall I crawl? Can we crawl down the embankment? Andre!
Dang.
No! Stop!
I'm hit, but escape the car, and with producer Dominic van Heerden, we make our way down the embankment.
Dang.
Camera operator Richie Mockler has taken 2 rounds to his body armour, but is still stuck in the car. He runs for it in a hail of bullets.
Okay, guys. Keep going. Stuart. Go on, Stuart, I'm rolling.
The 5 of us have made it out of the car, down the embankment, and we just can't believe we're alive.
Let's go through there, behind that wall. Go on then.
We run into a warehouse unit looking for cover.
Go.
Dang.
Three caretakers beckon us inside.
Спасибо.
And we're like, is that Iran? And they didn't see that.
Producer Martin Vowell starts coordinating a rescue plan with Sky staff. We know any rescue will take hours. We're stuck, fighting outside. We've no idea what's going on.
We've got ourselves into a garage. Somehow we found our way in. There's 3 guys working here, and they've said we can stay, but there's a lot of firing going on outside. We don't know why. It appears to be a battle, mortars and shooting.
After a mammoth logistical effort, we were rescued by the local police. We were lucky, but thousands of Ukrainians are not. And every day, this war gets worse here.
Wow.
Stuart Ramsey, Sky News, Kiev.
Freaking nuts.
Okay, let's get the latest on the military situation on the ground in Ukraine. Sky's Paul Kelso is with our security and defence analyst, Michael Clark.
Day 9 of the invasion. We're going to take a look at the situation in the south of Ukraine, the most significant development, the bombing of the nuclear power station at Zaporizhzhia. Michael Clark, our defence analyst, your best analysis of how that happened.
Well, I think the strategic explanation might be that President Putin wanted to frighten everybody. I think the real explanation, it was probably actually strategic stupidity on the part of local forces. It usually turns out to be that in this sort of case.
That is worrying, given that we've got a second power station perhaps we should be aware of close to Russian forces.
Yeah, and the whole front is now moving towards the west. So we're thinking about what happens next in Odessa and around that part of the Black Sea coast of Ukraine.
So let's take a look at that. Let's zoom in on this area around Odessa. Significant at the moment, no red lines, means no Russian control at the moment. But how is that going to play out? And tell us also about Chornomorsk, the commercial port.
Yes, Odessa is the historic port. Chornomorsk is the commercial port, existed since the 1950s. Since then, those 2 ports account for about 70% of all of the Black Sea trade of Ukraine. If they're taken by the Russians, which one assumes eventually they will be, then that's pretty bad news for Ukraine's economy.
And you expect the forces to move towards Odessa?
It looks as if they will. They're fighting at the moment at Mykolaiv. The Russians have been repelled once at Mykolaiv in the last 24 hours, but I'm sure that they will eventually have to give ground there at some point.
And there are assets at sea as part of this operation, we think?
Yes, the Russians have got assault ships at sea, they've got a maritime force, so one would expect that when the ground troops are ready to attack Odessa, that the troops at sea will probably join them in a maritime assault.
Let's look quickly at the battle for Kiev. We have reports earlier today, of renewed hostilities at Hostomel. Explain the significance strategically of this airfield.
Yes, the Russians tried to take Hostomel airfield in the early stage of the conflict with an airborne assault, and it didn't work. They got beaten back. Hostomel is a really important strategic asset, because if you hold Hostomel airfield, you can bring troops into it much more easily than bringing them by road, and you can use Hostomel airfield to attack Kiev itself from the air. So both for defence and the attack on Kiev, Hostomel airfield is a very important strategic asset.
Thank you, Michael. So, as we go into the second weekend of the invasion, the fate of key strategic assets around Kiev still up in the air, and a long haul ahead for both the Russian invading force.
Is it Kiev or Kiev?
Importantly, those on the ground in Ukraine.
Russia has blocked access to Facebook, closing yet another avenue
to Facebook.
An acting president. What you did earlier this week when you flew backseat in a fighter jet to Grozny was unusual. What was the symbolism there?
Sometimes it does no harm to see and feel for myself what the real power of the armed forces is all about.
To the moment Barbara Walters sat down with him just 2 months after 9/11.
When you became president, there was some apprehension because you had been with the KGB. People thought that you were very authoritarian. They described you in somewhat scary terms. How would you describe yourself?
We have a saying, you should judge about someone not by what he says about himself, but by what he does.
To now, in an interview this week with former Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko. How would you describe Vladimir Putin?
Please, don't trust Putin. Putin never telling the truth.
And still to come, after a life-changing accident, a police officer finds his new path to protecting and serving.
She's broken.
She left her husband behind.
Yes.
Where have they come from? Have they come from Kiev?
In Kiev? No, in Chernovitz. In Chernovitz. Наш тет. They had to run away.
Has she been able to speak to her husband? Can she phone him?
Vorbiți la telefon cu soțul, probabil. Yeah.
Is he okay?
E bine, da.
He's fine, for now. We spent the day at the town football stadium. It's now a temporary camp to relieve pressure on the border. They are looked after well here. There is genuine tenderness for the arriving refugees.
Just a minute ago, I talked with one girl, and she wants to go home. That's it.
A little girl?
A little girl. Just wants to go home, nothing else. She doesn't care what happened, wants to go home.
I bet.
And this isn't home, of course.
It's not home. Whatever they go, it's not home, no.
I mean, it's going to stay with them for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Happy birthday to you.
Irina was 7 yesterday. She didn't have a party like all 7-year-olds should. Instead, she fled the war. And so when she arrived in Romania, late in the evening after a frightening day, the fire brigade did this for her.
Bravo!
It was a basic act of human kindness. There's been a lot of that here. But Irina said she only wanted one present, to be with her papa. She is another child without her dad, because he stayed behind to fight for his country. Alistair Bunkle, Sky News, on the Romanian-Ukrainian border.
Okay, some news away from Ukraine this morning then, and a woman has died after an incident involving a Coast Guard helicopter in Plymouth. Devon and Cornwall police say the accident happened in the grounds of Derriford Hospital in Plymouth. In a statement, they say 2 people were injured as a Coast Guard helicopter was landing at the helipad. 1 person is being treated for their injuries in hospital, while a woman in her 80s was injured and died later.
Somebody sent this to me.
When the Soviet Union, the Soviet Empire collapsed, and as the empire collapsed, I moved in and picked up the pieces, first in Hungary, in 1984, and then Poland in 87, China in 87 as well. So this is how the Soros Empire was replacing the Soviet Empire.
And how do you think you're doing in your imperial ambitions?
What? God.
Of not being able to do anything about it.
Shane Warne went on to take over 700 more Test wickets, the king of leg spin.
Guys, feel free to send me any clips that you see.
His hands do that to a cricket ball.
My hands are quite thick, I suppose.
Ugly.
But I think that as a kid, I broke both my legs when I was about, I think, 6 or 7, and I had to get around on a trolley. I had plaster from here to my ankles, and I got around on a trolley for 12 months. So I don't know if that actually helped me develop my strength in my forearms and hands and develop that.
I'm looking for another clip to put up.
Cricket, and cricket loved him, being himself, holding nothing back.
Yes, Shane Warne was a great cricketer, a great commentator. He knew the game. He was very incisive. He was also a very kind person who was willing to talk to anyone from any country about the game and assist anyone.
Earlier this week, Australian cricket lost legendary wicketkeeper Rod Marsh, and now the guy they knew and loved as Warney.
The game was never the same.
CNN just put out a statement saying they were going to halt broadcasting in Russia while we continue to evaluate the situation and our next steps forward.
Same after Warney emerged, and the game will never be the same after his passing. Rest in peace, King.
He died from a suspected heart attack in Thailand, aged 52. His last post on social media read simply, "Good night" from Koh Samui. The sport he loved wasn't ready to say goodbye.
Fathers they left behind.
Tom Harmon.
Tonight, the Kremlin launching an alarming crackdown on journalists in Russia. A new law making it a crime to report, quote, fake news, anything the government doesn't agree with. The last thing they played on the air at the independent Russian TV station before they walked out. Back at home tonight, gas prices soaring, jumping 26 cents in just 1 week. But the surprise today when it came to American jobs. In New York City tonight, the major headline on the pandemic and masks. And back here tonight, the powerful image that says it all. A father and the 5-year-old daughter in the window. And a note here about our special right here later tonight.
From ABC News, this is a special edition of World News Tonight with David Muir, reporting tonight from the Poland-Ukraine border.
And good evening tonight from the Ukraine-Poland border. The humanitarian crisis unfolding here and the Russian war inside Ukraine escalating tonight. Bombing civilian targets, the horrific images coming in, and the major fire at the largest nuclear power plant in Ukraine and in all of Europe for that matter, sparking worldwide alarm for many hours about the potential for a radiation leak. Tonight, Russian forces are now in control of that facility, and international authorities say there has been no leak. But it was a frightening scene, the fierce firefight at that nuclear power plant, the fire just 1,500 feet from 6 nuclear reactors. Emergency crews dousing the flames. By daybreak here, the Russians were in control of that plant. And tonight, attacks on civilian targets mounting. These images from social media, the aftermath of a devastating attack on a high-rise apartment building north of Kiev. At least 47 people reportedly killed. Tonight, our team in Kiev, aware of Ukrainians seeking shelter underground in the capital there. And we have new images of that convoy of Russian military vehicles, at one point more than 40 miles long. Right now, about 17 miles out from the capital, what the new images now reveal. And inside Russia tonight, the Kremlin's assault on free speech, blocking Facebook and Twitter, and a new law. Journalists now facing up to 15 years in prison for so-called fake news. Anyone spreading what the government deems as, quote, false information, potentially for using words like war and invasion. And just tonight, Ukraine...
Or Wuhan lab.
Ukraine's President Zelenskyy addressing large crowds in Prague and across Europe and the world. And his warning saying, if we will fall, you will fall. We do have several new developments tonight. We begin here with ABC senior foreign correspondent Ian Pannell leading us off again tonight from Kyiv.
Tonight, a ferocious attack on an apartment building just outside Kiev. In videos circulating online. The Russian onslaught taking a terrible toll on civilians. Here, another attack on an apartment complex in Chernihiv, a city north of Kiev. The aftermath seen in video posted on social media. 47 people killed, according to the emergency services. In another city west of the capital, a school was destroyed by Russian rockets, according to Ukraine's president, who said the Russians do not stop at anything. It's not clear yet if there were casualties. And tonight, after a fierce firefight, Russian troops have control of Europe's largest nuclear power plant in southeastern Ukraine. The fire ignited at the facility, triggering fears around the world of a potential nuclear disaster. A satellite map of the site shows the flames were located in an area only about 1,500 feet away from the plant's 6 reactors and pools where spent fuel rods are cooled, although not all of them were active.
Crazy.
But nuclear scientists...
Hold on, I'll be right back. I'm going to get a quick drink. Just hold on a second. I'll run a silly video real quick. My fellow Americhans, it's me, Joe Byron. Make sure to support Derek O'Shea by going to buymeacoffee.com/Derek O'Shea. Easily one of my least favorite YouTubers of all time. And all you have to do is go down here, buy him a coffee, support a show, or even join as a member. $3 a month, that's all it costs. And you could be a big time supporter of his show. He's a good guy, but he's a piece of crap, and I hate him for that. I hope you have a great day, and as always, let's go get ice cream, and I need to get my sniff on. All right, I'm back. Let's keep watching.
Calming fears, and this morning the fire was out and radiation levels reported to be normal. The entrance to the plant littered with the debris of the battle fought here. President Zelenskyy saying today, we survived a night that could have stopped the history of Ukraine, the history of Europe. And in the capital itself, the ever-present dangers escalating today.
These air raids are going off around the city every half an hour or so. We're just heading down into a metro station where a lot of residents are now living and spending the night. It's an eerie sound. And as this war closes in, the fear is that what is going to be followed by is bombardment of the city.
Satellite images show the size of this enormous Russian convoy that's been stalled for days about 17 miles outside the city. The Pentagon says attacks by Ukrainian forces, who've also blown up a bridge along the way, have slowed the Russian advance.
We do believe that the actions by the Ukrainians have in fact stalled that convoy and certainly slowed it down, stopped it in some places.
There are fears Russia's planning to launch an amphibious assault on the Black Sea port of Odessa to cut Ukraine from the sea and international shipping. As he's done in previous wars, Putin has shown every sign he'll continue to attack civilian areas with disregard to the costs. A warning echoed by US Secretary of State Blinken in Brussels.
The suffering we've already seen is likely to get worse before it gets better for as long as Russia pursues these methods.
But tonight, in a message broadcast to thousands of people gathered in cities across Europe, Zelenskyy called for solidarity with Ukraine in the fight ahead.
That was an extraordinary sight not long ago. Ian Pannell back with us live tonight from Kiev. And Ian, I know you were underground in the shelters today. Just knowing people are still seeking shelter underground speaks volumes of the fear, the realization of what could still be coming for the capital of Ukraine. And you also have news tonight of more weapons coming from the U.S.?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, thousands of people are essentially cowering underground overnight. Some men, but mainly women, children and the elderly. Many of these bunkers were built to withstand a nuclear war. They're deep underground and people have had to now live this subterranean life. And you're right, extra weapons now heading this way from the United States. Not just these Javelin anti-tank missiles, but also these sophisticated Stingers. These are anti-aircraft missiles, something the administration had been reluctant to send over to Ukraine, but in a mark of support for the Ukrainian government, they're now heading...
I wonder what tomorrow's going to bring with the president talking to the Senate tomorrow.
This way.
Zelenskyy.
David?
Ian Pannell leading us off tonight from Kiev. Ian, thank you. Your reporting has just been incredible. Meantime, back here where we are tonight, the humanitarian crisis only worsening. More than 1.2 million refugees now. Half of them are children. Tonight here, we take you on the buses with the families who are told to choose which country they will now live in. And the moving moments here when we ask the children about their fathers back in Ukraine fighting the Russians.
It's crazy.
They are unmistakable. The sirens on the Ukraine border, the police escort for the buses filled with frightened Ukrainians who are escaping war. Guards securing the site in Poland where they pull in. You can see the buses pulling in one after another. These are all Ukrainian families fleeing their country, coming just across the border here into Poland. On board these buses, we hear story after story about the mothers and their young children and the fathers who they have left behind to fight against the Russians. Don't rush off the bus, she says. Please, no panicking. And keep an eye on your children. Another guard waiting to help. On board, so many of the refugees are children. More than 500,000.
Whoa, beep beep, what up? Journalists want us U.S. direct involvement so bad. I know they do. They want it so bad. Like, it'll make their job feel like they have purpose. Honestly, I'm a little concerned about tomorrow's fun little shindig with Zelenskyy and the U.S. Senate and what it's going to actually accomplish in the end. I'm going to find another clip to look up.
And we find a boy.
Kind of bored of ABC.
Are you a Superman? Yeah, you're a Superman. Zahar.
You Superman?
5. Oh, you're 5. You're 5? He tells me they took a train and then a bus. He also tells me his father is fighting in the war. Your father is still at the war? Your son told me that his papa is fighting against the Russians. What did you say to him before he left?
Yeah.
She tells me
I'm glad I'm not the only one that's scared.
Because it was terrible.
Genuinely just kind of a weird
The
thing.
Russians were firing all around them. How do you explain this
It's gonna be
to your children? What do you
I bet the end of what happens tomorrow, there's going to be so many cries for pushed war. Some of these people. Oh, here's a fun story we haven't watched. Let's see what
Credit luck, credit unlock. I feel so powerful.
Protect everything you do online. Try for free at aura.com.
My greatest strength.
Oh, shut up with your commercials. Have you seen the messages from the Ukrainians to the dead Russian families after they... Yes.
This is what's known as NATO's Eyes in the Sky. And up there you can see a radar dome because it's a surveillance plane. Now we're told operations from this base in Western Germany have really intensified since the Russian invasion. This flight's about to take off and we're going to be on it.
I like that they're like messing with the sound on each ear. Why are they doing that?
So we're on board a Boeing 707 and it's not exactly a passenger plane. For one thing, there are hardly any windows. It is in fact a flying office and as you can see, a pretty extraordinary one.
Yeah, they haven't set up a sensor area yet, so
we are in Polish airspace and we are located roundabout at the Belarusian and Ukrainian border.
I am Staff Sergeant Beaupierre. I'm the radar technician and I'm in charge of the radar. We use it to scan the air.
I'm the radar technician and I'm in charge of the radar. That makes sense.
Right here we've got the surveillance team who is responsible for producing recognized air picture.
with our radar, we're able to...
Look at those glasses. I don't love how the military glasses, they just don't update.
see pretty far out, and then
whatever we do see, we report that.
Well, the challenge of this mission is that suddenly it is in your own backyard. If it is somewhere else, you don't feel as anxious as we are doing now. But knowing this is Europe, it gives you a little bit of an extra tension.
Birth control glasses. So true.
In there.
We've been in the air about 5 hours now, and we're in Polish airspace, sort of doing a figure of 8. But we've been told we're going to be in the air an extra 2 hours. Seems they want to keep going, keep collecting information.
We definitely detected a large number of Russian or Belarusian aircraft that marshaled
Belarusian
in Belarus and then ingressed into Ukraine for probably about 20 minutes and then egress back to the north. So we were able to see that occurring in real time and report it up.
NATO sometimes accused in this situation of just watching on. Does it feel like that's what you're doing?
I don't think so. Again, our role is to protect NATO territory and ensure the sovereignty of NATO airspace.
NATO's accused of watching on. I know you're from a plane that's specifically intended to watch. Do you feel like you're just watching? Oh, that was so silly. Let's go to this live. Right. I'm trying to find another video.
Yes, she says, but he told us to go. You thinking about your father? Very much, he tells me. I'm having a hard time. I love him. Watching it all, his younger sister, Zlata.
Zlata.
Please be safe. And with so much need here, that young volunteer who came from Germany helping these families, revealing to me one of the things they need most right now.
The problem is that we can't find.
They rotate these AWACS out of... Yeah, I've seen that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
These buses picking up many of the refugees who walked here, crossing the border.
Oh, I wonder what this is like.
Through the window, we see the families who came on foot.
The E6 and River Joint aircraft are everywhere in the Eastern Europe right now. I bet they are. I bet they're just
All
watching.
our actions, if they're taken, are taken exclusively as a response to unfriendly actions towards the Russian Federation. I think everyone should consider normalizing relations and cooperate normally.
Oh my gosh. I hear this twat. This guy, I can't stand him. But yet I listen.
We have seen so many images just like that one, children holding their favorite stuffed animal, the one stuffed animal they brought with them, and of course the mothers holding their children. I know many of you at home have reached out to me on social media asking how you can help in this humanitarian effort. So we have put a link on our website. You can go to...
You could be like those guys from CNN who just decided to join.
Ramping up its bombing of civilian areas. And
nothing says trustworthy like this guy.
They've captured at least one major city in South Ukraine. But despite seeing their country decimated by the Russian military, the Ukrainian people have still shown some remarkable compassion. And believe it or not, they've shown it to the Russian soldiers themselves.
Among all the chaos in Ukraine, humanity still prevails. This video going viral this morning appearing to show Ukrainians helping a captured Russian soldier, giving him tea and food, and allowing him to call...
Demure even ever go to Yemen or No. God, of course not. Good call, though. Or Turkey. Armenian genocide that no one wants to talk about.
And a mother...
At least he's not funny.
You were someone who was doing programming for mobile phone games, and now you're doing this. Is it surreal?
Yes.
You're playing video games. Now you're shooting people in real life. Is this surreal to you?
Sometimes it's like I just want to drink enough coffee and waking up from this, but I don't.
And this nightmare is real. As missiles fall, rescuers carry the wounded, cries ringing out across Ukraine. We were invited into this sprawling checkpoint, concrete bunkers, coils of concertina wire.
Hear a little bit more of this.
Call his mother to tell her that he's okay. You see him right there in the hat. The soldier is seen fighting back tears, apparently telling his mom he didn't want to be there. Ukrainians on social media are telling Russian soldiers if they surrender, people will feed them and take care of them.
Wow. Look, man, I don't know all of them, but right now Ukrainians seem like some of the best people in the world. They're standing up to one of the biggest militaries on the planet. And on top of that, they've captured an invading soldier and they're giving him food and drink. You don't see humanity like that in war. In fact, you don't even see humanity like that on Twitter. Yeah, like one time I said hot dogs weren't sandwiches and I still get death threats to this day.
God. This guy's a comedian and he has writers that he pays. It's just so silly. I said hot dog.
I mean, look at that soldier. Just look at him. Like, they're giving him sustenance and letting him FaceTime his mom. Do you know what that means? Like, you know you're being treated humanely when the worst part of being a prisoner of war is trying to get your mom off the phone. Yes, I am safe, mom. Yeah. No, I didn't hear.
I was wrong. Funny.
about Linda at office. Yeah, listen, mom, I have to go. I'm still in war zone. Yeah. Yes, I know they were only together for 8 months. It is surprising, mom. Yes. I told you, mom, when I find someone, I'll get married. Yes, mom. I mean,
cue laugh track.
You crazy as hell.
I know.
Think about it. Just think about it for a second. Free tea, free food, free Wi-Fi. Huh? Yeah, Russian prisoners are getting better service than passengers on Spirit Airlines.
Again, another joke. I mean, the jokes keep coming.
Spirit Airlines, you'll wish you were a prisoner of war.
Again, there's another one. That's at least 3.
Meanwhile, the rest of the world continues to rally behind the Ukrainian people. And it's not just big steps, like more sanctions on Russian oligarchs or the International Criminal Court investigating Russia for war crimes. No, lots of places and lots of people you might not have even heard of, by the way, or not even thought of, are turning to Russia and saying, "Niet."
Mr. War, what's up? When are you normally on? So I'm doing my live show. I've been going on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern to 11 p.m. Eastern. So I got 9 minutes left of partying with me, and I'm partying. Do you guys enjoy my new
fellow
commercial with
Americans.
this guy?
EA Sports.
It's I've just decided to be consistent. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern to 11 p.m. Eastern.
Is now removing.
And we've done a lot of videos throughout the day. I hope you're having a good night, Mr. War.
Russian teams from some of its biggest sports games. They include NHL 22, FIFA 22, FIFA Online, and FIFA.
The idea of getting rid of the Russian team on a video game, it's just so silly. Completely ignoring the Donbass 14. Yeah, I know. Of course. They'll ignore the corporate media picks and chooses what they want to highlight. It's just ridiculous. Always you and me, the people that aren't in power lose out in the end. Mr. War, are you excited about what Zelenskyy is going to say to the U.S. Senate tomorrow? Because me and Beep Beep have been talking back and forth saying we're a little bit nervous about that outcome.
Mobile.
Somebody says like Lindsey Graham's going to be pretty pumped about tomorrow. He's going to say, see, I told you guys. Yellow
Russian flag removed at Miami International Airport. Miami-Dade County Mayor Daniela Levine-Cava gave the order this morning in solidarity with Ukraine.
The International Cat Federation has banned Russian cats from competition.
Okay, now this is an easy setup to make an easy joke with, you don't even need writers for it. You can make some kind of dog joke like Russian dogs are doing it or something silly, but see what he comes up with.
Officials announced the rule against any cat belonging to Russian breeders or exhibitors, saying they could not, quote, witness these atrocities and do nothing.
Wow. Even the International Cat Federation is turning against Russia. Which, by the way, I didn't even know existed. I don't know about you, but I did not know. And honestly, I'd be worried about pissing off the cat people. I mean, they take that shit seriously. You think Putin is scary? Imagine a Russian Carol Baskin. Hello, cool cats and kittens. And look at...
Oh. Jeez. Hello, cool cats and kittens.
It is great. It is great that everyone is showing solidarity against Russia, but even cats are getting banned? Like, it's wild. Cats. I mean, where does it go next? At this point, I wouldn't be shocked if Donald Trump comes out and he's like, from now on, I will only get peed on by Ukrainian women. We're all in this together. I'm doing my part. Doing my part. And yes.
Kind of funny. That almost made me smile. It was like this close.
Sports. Yeah, EA Sports is taking Russian.
Mainly because P is funny. That's just a funny thing to say, P.
Russian teams out of their video games. But
Lindsey Graham has a crush on Zelenskyy. It certainly seems like it. I think you were around, BB, when we were watching Lindsey Graham on Hannity tonight. God, just doubling down and Sean Hannity backing him up. They just need to get a room.
Ukraine wants them to go even further, right? They're calling on video game companies to boycott Russia entirely. No games. Turn it off. Fortnite, Warzone, everything. Turn it off. And if you ask me,
DEFCON, what up? Oh, you guys are all popping in late. What's going on? Trevor Noah's comedy is bizarre. God, it's so bad. It's so bad. But I've been looking for videos to kind of go through, and this one popped up, and I was like, I'll see. Of course, the title is Ukrainian War is Exposing Racial Disparities in Refugee Treatment, which I get, but also there's another aspect of that story where it's like Ukrainian men are not allowed to leave and they're forced to fight. And so you have all these women and their husbands being forced to fight, and these women and children getting on places to leave. And so obviously you would think as a man, I don't care if you're a refugee or not, you should allow them to go first instead of just immediately crying, this is racism.
me, that's the opposite of what they should be doing. Yeah, if you want to disrupt the Russian war effort, don't turn off the games. You should send everyone in Russia a free copy of Elden Ring. Or stop the war dead in.
God, I've seen so. This joke right here was okay. This joke is a Babylon Bee article right here.
Of what they should be doing. Yeah, if you want to disrupt the Russian war effort, don't turn off the games. You should send everyone in Russia a free copy of Elden Ring.
That is a Babylon Bee article. Look it up. I've seen it.
Or stop the war dead in its tracks. Yeah, good luck invading when you're spending.
I swear that's Babylon Bee. Let's see. Can confirm. Okay. Look at that. Right there. You know, it's unbelievable. That is freaking unbelievable. It's unbelievable. I just like, not surprised they steal jokes. I know. I keep listening. It's just so silly.
40 hours just to get past the first boss. Is he an old man? Is he a tree? How is he so hard to fight?
I'm sure you're playing Elden Ring, Trevor.
So yes, video game companies, airports, the cat community, everyone is coming together to do their part to show Russia that what they're doing is not cool. And one of the many reasons that this is not cool is not just because Russia is bombing a peaceful country that did nothing to antagonize them. No, it's also because by doing this, they've unleashed one of the worst humanitarian crises that Europe has ever seen.
This Russian invasion is leading to...
The Daily Show died when Jon Stewart retired. Yeah, I know. Because, like, remember when Jon Stewart would, like, get up and rising young comedians like Steve Carell comes to mind. Freaking Stephen Colbert when he used to be funny. So many.
To another emergency unfolding at this hour, the humanitarian crisis just across Ukraine's borders.
The United Nations Refugee Agency says at least...
Okay, here's the triggering. It's gonna come then.
1 million Ukrainians have fled to neighboring countries, and then millions more could soon join them.
Tonight, the crush to flee Ukraine. We were in this tunnel at the train station in Lviv. Refugees packed so tightly they could only shuffle forward. Parents clutching their children's hands.
There've got to be 1,000 people in this tunnel right now, all of them pushing their way towards the last track here.
He had Ryan Dawson. He would interview all types. Yeah.
Railway spokesperson.
Yeah, Jon Stewart is a guy that would make fun of everyone. And that's what I miss. I just miss the not being afraid to offend everyone vibe of that. That's kind of what I want my show to be. I don't want to just be one-sided, but right now it's hard not to be.
Person saying every hour, 5,000 to 10,000 more people arrive at the Lviv station in western
How will
Ukraine.
this affect Syrian refugees? Exactly.
20 hours trying to cross the border. Officials say this humanitarian crisis is only going to get worse.
This exodus we're seeing from Ukraine is the biggest number of people displaced in Europe in the shortest amount of time since World War II.
Yeah, no sacred cows. Like, it's either you can't talk about anything or you talk about everything.
God damn it, Vladimir Putin. Just imagine. One day, you're living a normal, peaceful, modern life. And then
the next day, you turn on the TV and you have to watch Trevor Noah.
Next day, you're trekking to the Romanian border on foot. Just think about that for a second. Right? We think the world has ended when our Wi-Fi goes down. These people don't know if they'll ever
No, you think the world's ended when your Wi-Fi goes down.
get to go home. One of the major costs of war is how many people get displaced. They have their lives totally uprooted. Like, we all think war is like Call of Duty. You know, you run in, you shoot, and then you reboot. But
no, we all don't think that way. People like you do. Or Lindsey Graham.
For most people, it's more like Oregon Trail. Less exciting, much harder, and way more depressing. And I think we can all agree that it's a bad thing, man. It is a bad thing when anything comes close to World War II levels. Whether it's refugees, fighting, or wastelands, it's always bad. And this is what people forget about war. You know, because sometimes you hear about a war in another country, right? You hear about a war in another country and you think, oh, well, that's sad, but it's over there, so why should I care? But you should care. You should care. You know why? Because we're all interconnected in the modern age. Yeah, and that means
See, when you... Communicating one-on-one is that he should be addressing himself in this manner. He said, I feel this way, and maybe you feel like this. Not assuming. You never want to assume the audience feels how you feel. You always want to say, this is how I feel, and then I wonder if you feel this way. So it brings you in. It's like, I appreciate you guys being here.
Of that
Lindsay,
war,
there's a romantic component.
Whether it's the refugee crisis or the rising gas prices or the stock market, the ripple effects are everywhere. So in a way, Putin didn't just invade Ukraine. He's also invaded your gas tanks, right? He's invaded...
Okay. Here's a dumb take of the day.
Your grocery bill. He's invaded your social media feeds.
Another dumb take of the day.
Yeah, you just want to scroll and look at Fox.
Hey, I appreciate that. Thanks so much, someone. Whoever someone is, I appreciate you.
It's thoughts and prayers. But one glimmer of hope for these refugees is that all of Ukraine's neighboring countries are welcoming them with open arms.
Ukraine's neighbors welcoming the refugees with open arms, a warm drink and a hug in Moldova. In Slovakia, a chance to watch cartoons.
Ukrainians welcomed by Hungarian officials and aid workers. Each handed a solidarity ticket, a free seat on another train to the Hungarian capital where more help waits.
You've got one European country after another saying that they will fast-track applications for asylum.
The European Union is talking about giving them 3 years of temporary
Oh, I bet it is. I bet that is true, BB.
residency so they can work, they can access benefits.
In Poland, they have opened their borders, opened their arms to as many Ukrainian refugees as will arrive.
We keep our borders open. The nationals of all countries.
And that's all they care about, removing the anxiety of the human being and not allowing the human to choose for themselves.
Who suffered from Russian aggression or whose life is at risk can seek shelter in my country.
Poland's commissioner to the EU personally offered to host a family of refugees in his own home in Warsaw, but the refugees had found an alternative place to stay.
This is amazing, people. All these countries in Europe have stepped up to take in all of these refugees. And what's also amazing is, if I heard correctly, the Polish commissioner to the EU offered to host a family of refugees in his home, but they said, no thanks, we found another place. And I don't care what you say, that's gotta hurt. Yeah, you think you're helping refugees and they're like, wow, So is that your kitchen? It's only been 8 days. My standards haven't dropped that much. But still, seeing these refugees being greeted with open arms and full hearts, it gives me a glimmer of hope in this world, you know? To see like people
He's building it up before he's about to make some racist statement.
Helping people in need. I mean, it is interesting though that Eastern Europe has been so willing and able to accept 1 million people coming into their countries in
Here we
just a
go.
few days, when just recently,
Here we go.
it didn't seem to have any space for a different group of refugees.
The humanitarian
And were those refugees attacked by a major world power?
crisis in Europe continues to grow and increasingly expose fault lines. Hundreds of thousands of refugees streaming in from Syria and elsewhere. But as the arguing continues, so does the suffering.
As Europe struggles for a solution, refugees forced to zigzag from one country to another with no clear path.
The EU has effectively paid Turkey to keep Syrians from getting to Greece.
Poland had pledged to take in a number of the refugees, saying now that it is not going to do that.
We will not be receiving migrants from the Middle East and North Africa in Poland.
This is Hungary's solution to the flood of refugees pouring in. A 13-foot fence topped with razor wire, running about 115 miles along its border with Serbia.
Police in riot gear told they can shoot rubber bullets at anyone who tries to cross.
Hostility here in Hungary. Video shocking the world. The Hungarian camerawoman kicking that girl as she runs from police. And this, as a man runs by carrying a small child, she trips him and he falls to the ground.
Hungary's Prime Minister
Oh my God, that's so messed up.
Viktor Orban had a message for the migrants themselves.
The moral human thing is to make clear, please don't come.
That's really strange. When it's Syrians who are fleeing a war, it's all, we do not have space, do not come.
Right, there's a freaking border with Ukraine and Poland, not another continent. Right, I know. It's so crazy.
But now this space and people must come, what changed? I mean, when the Syrians needed refuge.
What changed? Let's get into our assumptions. How about we do that? Because nothing says assumptions like the word ass.
Even the camera crew was drop-kicking families. Yeah, but now Ukrainians are getting accommodation, they're getting visas, they're getting work benefits, which, by the way, is good. It is a good thing. But I'm just saying, where's their dropkick? And look, we don't even have to speculate. We don't.
Right. And, you know, most of those refugees that were coming from over in Syria were all a lot of men, and these are a bunch of women with children. So I guess it's the same thing. You're right.
I don't have to speculate about why they're treating Ukrainians so differently than refugees from Africa or from the Middle East. It's because the Prime Minister of Bulgaria, he came out and said it, right? He said, these are not the refugees we are used to. These people are Europeans. These people are intelligent. They are educated people.
Oh. Is that a whole quote or is that a out of context quote? Is the question.
Kind of a shocking thing to say. But at the same time, I will say, I'm impressed that the Prime Minister of Bulgaria has found the time to get to know all 1 million refugees that have fled Ukraine in the past week. He must be very efficient.
You literally have to cross Turkey and, the Bosphorus to the Balkans and the Alps to get to the Western. Exactly.
At making small talk. So where you from? What you do? What you think? Aha, I like you.
It's like a storybook.
Please, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong.
I know.
I understand the arguments, right? I understand the arguments that these countries will make, right? That they have to think about how easy it is for refugees to integrate into their culture and society.
That's part of it, but also a big part of it is mainly the refugees coming to their country are women and children, not single men.
I get that. I truly get that. It's just like it's easier for you to take in a family member who's in trouble than a random person who needs help.
It is easier for me to take a single mother and her child over a single man. Yes, I have more empathy and sympathy towards that. I think as a man, I speak for most men, we probably all feel that way.
You know, like lots of kids got in one little fight with a couple of guys who were up to no good. But there's a reason Uncle Phil and Aunt Viv only took in Will. I get it. But it doesn't mean it's impossible. It doesn't mean it's impossible. And the problem I have is that when it's Syrians or Africans on a boat, these countries didn't even try to integrate them. They didn't even say women and children only. No, they reject even the chance that anyone brown could assimilate. Your skin is too dark. You couldn't possibly eat borscht. And I know right now there's somebody who's like, Trevor, again with the racism. What is it with black people and the racism? Always talking about
I didn't mention that, but you did. You're the only one mentioning it, Trevor.
You know, I go years at a time without even thinking about racism. It's easy. Why don't you try? Well, maybe the reason why people are always talking about racism is because racism is always happening to the black people. And we're seeing it again now in Ukraine.
African and Indian students stuck in Ukraine are accusing officials of discriminating against them.
Again, I say this over and over again. If there's one train leaving a station and it's women, you let the women and children go first, and then you allow the other men from other countries. Why? Because, again, these women have probably husbands or sons that are fighting the war, and so I'm sure there's an aspect to them of anger where they look at this and go, this is bullcrap that my son is forced to stay here and fight while you're allowed to leave this country when you're willing and able to do the same as my son or husband. I'm sure that they are probably angry about that. It doesn't necessarily have to be a racist thing, but as I can imagine, I have empathy towards these people that are engaging. Sure, there might be some racist thing, and that's the thing that we can discuss, and is a horrible thing and stuff like that. But this is a warlike time, and this is people heightened and angry and fearful and scared, and they'll do whatever they can to save themselves.
And pushing them back from getting to the border.
This video posted to Twitter reads,
beep, beep. How dare you bring up that? There's no nuance. Exactly.
Watch how they are.
There's no nuance. It's like, and I'm not allowed to have this point of view because of what I look like.
Threatening to shoot us, saying they're at the Ukraine-Poland border. The police and army are refusing to let Africans cross. They only allow Ukrainians.
Foreign students who faced
you won't explain the farmers in Zimbabwe.
Segregation and racism at the border crossing to Poland. Some say they were told they can't board buses there because they were meant for Ukrainians only.
Videos have been posted on social media said to show black people being prevented from boarding a train and left stranded at a railway station in Lviv as Ukrainians were allowed on.
One Congo native saying he was discriminated
Oh, whoops. Would you say
while trying to board
redheads are shifty? Hey, screw you, dude. Hey, we are shifty, though.
a train out of Ukraine.
They even told us, like, we are going to give you guns and you're going to fight for Ukraine. I said, hi.
See? There you go. Go fight. Oh, what, you don't want to?
We're going to fight for Ukraine. We are not Ukrainian.
Then why are you there?
We are black. So how can we fight? How can we fight?
We're not Ukrainian. We're black. Oh, okay. Now I'm getting it.
Fight.
You married one? Hey, good for you, Mr. War.
For Ukraine.
Yeah. Just think about this for a moment. Black people, students, tourists, visitors, many of them are saying they cannot get out of the country. They can't.
Students, tourists, visitors. Are you assuming that? Or do you know that for a fact of everyone trying to board, they were all those descriptions?
Get out. Because they're black.
Your girlfriend's a redhead too? I have to sleep with one eye open. You two both are married to a redhead? No wonder you like my channel.
They just get blocked at the border. And for this guy, I mean, this is wild. Imagine being prevented from leaving the country. And not just that, but they say like, no, not only can you not leave, you have to grab a gun and fight. That is insane. People from other countries haven't been told that they have to fight. Why does he?
Oh my God. Again, this is an assumption. You don't know that for a fact. You're just making a case because you're racist.
Huh? The British person gets to go. The African guy, no, you're staying. We've watched Beasts of No Nation. We know you guys know how to handle yourselves. This is what you guys do. That's not fair, man. When you go to another country,
ginger power.
You don't expect that they might be conscripting you into a war. You don't think you're going to be fighting in their army? Like, I'll tell you now, the Louvre would get a lot few visitors if they were like, oh, come and see the Mona Lisa, take a selfie with Venus. Maybe you fight for us in a war. Have you seen the pyramids? Welcome. It's extremely weird. It's extremely weird to ask some random African guy.
I almost laughed at that segment.
To fight for Ukraine. Why is that expected of him? Why can't he join the fight the way white people from other countries do? By posting an Insta story of the Ukrainian flag with a little heart.
CNN just did a story about how these three white dudes, one from Britain, two from America, are fighting for Ukraine right now. So, whatever. The French do have that. Plateau, Plato, what up? It's called Foreign Legion. Hey, there you go.
Emoji. I'm here for you, Ukraine. But that's not the point. The bigger point is that there seems to be a widespread discrimination against people of color who are trying to flee a war zone. And it's nuts. It's really nuts.
Trevor, just curious, are you creating a story based on other people's story, or is this an actual fact that you know for yourself? Just question.
To see border guards suddenly turn into club bouncers. Everybody on the bus! Everybody on the bus! Oh, hold on. No hoodies, no sneakers. Yeah. Oh yeah, and the hot friend. Yeah, she can come up. Not to mention, it's gonna be super confusing for the Russian army when they roll into Kiev and then there's only black people left. Comrades?
Yeah, every video I've seen is all black people, so no.
I think we took a wrong turn somewhere. I told you, don't use Apple Maps, use Waze. And look.
That is true. Don't use Apple Maps. That's a fact.
I know because of these stories, there are many Africans and many Middle Easterners who are seeing these videos and they're like, you know what? Screw Ukraine. If they're going to be racist, Putin can take Ukraine and he can have Poland for desserts.
Like you?
For real, that's what a lot of people are saying. You can see it on...
Everyone's saying that. Or is everyone that watches your show say that?
Online. People are angry because they're like, how can you let racism get in the way of getting people out of the way?
And again, how do you know that it's being racist? Because a journalist puts a camera in a black man's face and says, are you being discriminated against? And they're fearful of their life and they're scared out of their mind and they want to leave a country and they'll do whatever they can to get out. And they're going to say, yeah, I'm being prejudiced against. And so automatically as a citizen, we watch it and we're going, oh yeah, I totally believe you. I'm not even going to double check and make sure you're not lying to me. Why would everyone just assumes stuff because it fits a narrative, because it fits their agenda, because it fits like their idea of what the world is like. They're just automatically jumping onto that as opposed to just, this is a wartime scenario and people are freaked out, having fear of their life. They're scared out of their mind and they're saying and doing whatever they can to save their own skin. And again, as they watch their sons and husbands go fight a war while these other men who are able to help and fight these people are leaving their country. I get so bored of this.
Way of war. But I think rather than this being a moment to turn on each other, this refugee crisis should be a reminder that refugee is not a synonym for brown person.
And again, no one assumes refugee means brown person. Only a racist does that. But again, you're insinuating, which is pretty typical.
Anyone could become a refugee. It's a thing.
Oh, really? Oh my God. I had no idea that. It's just like anyone of any color can experience racism.
That happens to you. It's not who you are. And who knows?
Notice how they didn't find any fighting age men as refugees. Exactly.
You know, maybe one day you might be a refugee. I hope it doesn't happen to you, but it could. And if God forbid that day comes, wouldn't you want someone without any prejudice in their heart to open their doors to you, to welcome you into their home, so that you can look around their house and say, thanks. I think I can do better.
Yeah, I do hope that happens. I do hope that there's hope in the world for that, but I also assume that not everyone is genuine and nice. So what do you expect in this world? All right, guys, I appreciate you guys so much for hanging out with me. It means so much to me. I've enjoyed this. I've went out extra long because I wanted to finish this freaking Trevor Noah insane clip of assumptions, because it's not like you create an entire narrative based on an assumption or based on one instance, take one instance and then create a whole narrative on a people group forever, because that's not what the media does. That's insane to think that way. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and here's the silly video to end the night with. I love you. See you Monday, 9 p.m. Eastern to 11 p.m. Eastern. Later, man. My fellow Americhans, it's me, Joe Byron. Make sure to support Derek O'Shea by going to buymeacoffee.com/Derek O'Shea. Easily one of my least favorite YouTubers of all time. And all you have to do is go down here, buy him a coffee, support a show, or even join as a member. $3 a month, that's all it costs. And you could be a big time supporter of his show. He's a good guy, but he's a piece of crap, and I hate him for that. I hope you have a great day, and as always, let's go get ice cream, and I need to get my sniff on.